Oh, I love harmony. It's so beautiful. Thank you for singing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the wonderful music. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning to talk about shining, to talk about how to get out of our own way so that we can better light up the world. I've probably spoken hundreds of times, facilitated hundreds of workshops, performed in front of thousands. In fact, I've given countless presentations to thousands of adoring, screaming elementary school kids. I used to run assemblies for a mentoring program. So coming here and talking to you today, well, that should be a walk in the park. And yet, did anybody notice before we started, I was in the corner? I was doing a little bit of centering. I was doing a little bit of praying. I was doing a little bit of pumping myself up. So why does that need to happen? Why do I need self-talk? Why do any of us need to kind of get out of our own way so that we can better shine? I need to recite my own life's work to remind me of my greatness. Do you forget your greatness? Do you show up and sometimes feel insecure, sometimes feel a little bit unworthy, a little bit unsure? We forget how truly great we are, and that is now being called imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? It's a psychological occurrence when someone doubts their skills, their talents, their accomplishments, and has a persistent internalized fear of something being exposed as a fraud. Imposter syndrome is the internal psychological experience of feeling like a phony in some area of your life, despite any success that you've accomplished. It can also be defined as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite the evidence of success. In fact, a quick Google search reveals that 42% of employees exhibit some symptoms of imposter syndrome in their workspace. And Forbes states that 1 in 3 Americans suffer from imposter syndrome. Now, I don't know what needs to happen in order for something to be officially categorized as a syndrome. I mean, to me, it's a relatively new label for an age-old emotion. Imposter syndrome is a form of insecurity. Insecurity is a form of fear. I love the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's quoted as saying, there are essentially only 2 human emotions, love and fear. Love is basically any emotion we'd label as feeling good, and fear, the opposite. So having logged over 500 hours of coaching calls last year alone, I get the opportunity to work with people from all walks of life in varied occupations like a surgeon, an attorney, an accountant, a QVC dynamo, a former Miss America, New York Times bestselling authors, 7-figure coaches, pro athletes, celebrities. But you know what they all have in common? They've all had moments of insecurity. Every human has. I do a lot of networking in my business, and I had the opportunity to meet someone named Jonathan Williams. He's here in Grand Rapids, and he's the co-founder of something called Failure Lab. Have you ever heard of Failure Lab? It is an amazing thing if you have an opportunity to attend one. They hold events. So Failure Lab events showcase stories of struggles from successful people. It's extremely powerful to have an individual reveal a very difficult struggle because it humanizes their journey. It makes us know that we're not alone. But what is unique about this experience is that the speaker sharing the struggle doesn't get to resolve the story, doesn't get to share what happened after the failure. Can you imagine? You hear this person that you know has made it, and they tell you about a plummeting, derailing, devastating thing that happened in their life, and they leave you stewing in that. Wow. Why do they do that? What do we do when we hear something that doesn't resolve? When you hear a musical scale, da 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 da, what is your mind doing? Da! We gotta hear the eighth note. We need resolution. Because our minds seek resolution, Failure Lab is an amazing catalyst for crowdsourcing innovation because it leaves the mind of the audience seeking resolution. So imagine the power of having your team go experience this and then them all brainstorm about what could be done in that situation. Something powerful and positive results from something we label as negative. Fear of failure can keep people from trying. Fear of being found out as not good enough can keep people from showing up fully. Hiding God's light, hiding the truth of who we are. These negative emotions can keep us small. But we don't realize how we set ourselves up for disappointment when we think on some level that we should arrive at some point where we don't have to deal with things like fear of failure or imposter syndrome or anger or any of those negative emotions. We think to ourselves, shouldn't I be beyond this by now? Shouldn't I not get so angry? Shouldn't I not take things so personally? Shouldn't I not have feelings of insecurity, especially knowing everything that I've accomplished? But really think about that. We don't want a world with only good emotions. We might think we do, but we really don't, because that would rob us of so many opportunities for growth. I tell my clients there is no cure for insecurity. You don't slay the dragon of imposter syndrome once and like magic, ta-da! No, you have to slay the dragon again and again. There is no magical destination where we arrive. The joy is in the journey. And if we shift our perception, the journey, the struggles, the challenges, not only are those growth opportunities, but they are what make life delicious. Without the negative, we fail to appreciate fully the positive. But sometimes we feel overwhelmed by emotions. And when that happens, I try to be a witness. I don't want to feel bad, but here I am. When you suffer a loss or a life-altering setback, it's real, it's powerful, but it only has the power I give it. It only has the power I give it. No one can tell you not to feel what you feel. In fact, you have every right to feel that way. The question is, how long do you want to feel that way? So can you honor where you are? Give yourself grace. Allow the emotions to come for a visit. Just don't let them unpack their bags and move in. Instead of wishing we could conquer fear once and for all, can we see emotions as a signal? It's like a disruptor. It's like everything's going smoothly and then something happens which causes an emotional reaction. So let's look at that from a scientific standpoint, from the view of chaos and order. Chaos can be interpreted as any kind of disturbance to the current state. There's a continual dance between chaos and order. And when it comes to frequencies like we heard with the bowl, order is that resonance. Order is coherence. Chaos is incoherent. So if you view chaos as random, if you see chaos as a thing in and of itself, you can judge it as something negative, and you can feel like a victim. However, if you view chaos as a process in transition, it's going from some state through chaos to its next state, then we don't have to judge it. If we can view chaos as a process in transition, we can see that there are infinite potential, infinite possibilities. You don't see chaos as a thing, but it's part of transformation, the journey of your expansion. So you've heard that it's not what happens, it's what you do with what happens that matters. But I think even that is missing something. Doing is action-oriented. And what's good about that is that it acknowledges that you are at choice, that concept of I don't want to be a victim. But it's not what happens, it's what you do with what happens falls short, in my opinion, because talking about action, taking action alone in reaction to what happens without introspection, without inviting curiosity, implies a purely action-oriented way of handling things. And we miss the opportunity to make an even deeper decision. Who do I want to be? How am I being while I'm doing? We can learn to see chaos as a catalyst for creativity. It takes choice to a whole new level. It brings intention into the mix. As we shift the way we think about negative emotions, we can begin to see that all emotions are a form of communication. Something is being communicated to us through us. So what if we retrain ourselves to be curious about the messages emotions bring? When I'm feeling good, that's communicating alignment. When I'm not feeling good, that's communicating something is out of alignment. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, it's something I see a lot of because my work as a personal brand strategist, I get to help individuals who are mostly entrepreneurs. They've either made or they're making the leap to work for themselves. We call our ideal clients mission-driven messengers. What does it mean to be a mission-driven messenger? What does it mean to be driven by your mission? This is the individual who feels this calling on their heart. They're being drawn. They're being pulled to do something, and it feels really important. But answering a calling can create even more insecurity, more fear of the unknown, more uncertainty. So learning to navigate emotions is critical for them. Their intellect or their ego is always trying to keep them in the known because that's safe. Don't leave that job. Don't go out on your own. You're just one of a billion trying to do the same thing. That's imposter syndrome. But the calling on their heart doesn't go away. And they need to be able to break through their intellect to better serve their intuition. And this brings us again to the idea that emotions are communication, and we can see emotions as a gift. The message emotions bring is that of alignment or misalignment. The feeling you get is from being in coherence when your head and heart are in sync, or incoherence. You are either in coherence or you're feeling Incoherence, when your head and heart are out of sync. And when we don't meet those nudges, the messages from emotions, with at least an iota of curiosity, by asking questions, by inviting silence, by going within to tune into answers, that's when we feel disjointed, disconnected, out of sorts. And that's really what intuition is. When we feel incoherence and we're trying, I should need to say that differently. When we feel out of sorts, incoherence, we need to tune in. And tuning in is where you tap into intuition. When you act upon what intuition brings, that's inspired action. That's bringing you more into alignment. But the more we ignore those nudges, the more emotions need to get our attention. That communication isn't being heard until the little nudge turns into a firm tapping on the shoulder and eventually turns into something more. I have one client in particular who knew she was a spiritual seeker. She knew there was this underlying truth, but she couldn't get out of her own way when it came to her angry reactions. She actually said, I asked her to give me an example, and she said, well, one example is I can't drive anywhere without getting pissed off at whoever's driving alongside me. They're cutting me off, they're tailing me, they're doing things, and I just get so angry. And I asked her, what is the value of that? And she had no connection to there being a choice. That happened, they did it, I reacted, what do you mean? And then I shared the story of my sister, because sometimes it really helps to not have somebody tell you how you should be behaving, but instead show you an example of somebody doing things differently. Well, my sister would be driving all over the place, and one time somebody cut her off, and she rolled down the window as they were passing and went, and then as she pulled back in, she saw the look on her face in her rearview mirror, and something snapped. She began to cry. She wanted to find that person and say, that is not me. And the reason it hit her so much, so deeply, so powerfully, is because she knew she would never have a chance to have that person know who she truly is. That person only knew. Ooh, that's not a good feeling. And so she changed. She decided she was going to be the catalyst for good feelings when people are experiencing road rage or gridlock or some other not cool thing on the road. So she brought bubbles everywhere she went. So imagine being in gridlock, being really ticked off, and seeing bubbles floating out of somebody's window. Just that story helped my client understand that she was welcoming in feeling bad by her choice to react. And then when she recognized she had another choice, it was as if she could become the witness, and she noticed the nudges. She said, I now get to put my hands squarely on my own shoulders. It's like I can look at myself in the eye and say, there, little brain. I know what you're trying to get me to do. You're trying to get me to react because that's the way I always used to react. And that's a pattern. And patterns are safe because patterns are known. But staying in the known is playing small. I'm committed to fulfilling my destiny, to becoming more of the light I am meant to be. I am committed to growing. You see, there is a blueprint for each and every one of you. Every soul, every spirit has a reason for being here. In essence, you were literally made for this. So if you were literally made for the blueprint of your soul, there would be no way that you wouldn't be able to do it. I want you to say, I was made for this. Ready? I was made for this. So there's no way you can't not be able to do it. And so she said, I get to say to that part of my brain that wants to react, I love you. I'm not mad at you. I just get to choose big me over little me again and again. And now she's able to see the message her angry reactions, that wave of emotion was bringing. I'm out of alignment. And she is overjoyed. She never thought her road rage was even something to work on. But she sees how applying, shifting her awareness about emotions in those experiences led to understanding how to apply it everywhere else. So I invite you to notice the nudges, to be curious about the communication, to be mindful to the messages, to invite intuition, and to learn from the lesson. Dancing with emotions allows you to get out of your own way so that you can light up the world. And as we learn to dance with our emotions and grow from the lessons they bring, you're going to be better able to answer the calling on your heart. You're going to be better able to live into your soul's blueprint. You become the best version of yourself with each new day, with each new choice. And as we become the best version of ourselves, we are creating the best world possible. Imposter syndrome, like any negative emotion, is not a dragon you slay once. In fact, it's not a dragon to be slain at all, but rather an opportunity to notice and learn from the gift it offers. So one day, my friend, when that dragon appears, may you hop on her back and fly. Thank you.